Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them, and I don't know why I wanted to say it that fast. Start of the video, videos down below, a lot of speculation videos this last week, a lot of crazy videos, and guess what? We need 100,000 subscribers on YouTube! I don't know when I get that silver reward, but that was one of my goals for 2016, and you guys made it happen. So thank you all of you who have been supporting the YouTube channel. I'm, of course, streaming this over on Twitch like I usually am, with my messy hair that I just do this with, and I'm like, nah, it looks fine. So it's been a crazy week with a lot of things. We had 1,200 subs also on Twitch, 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and we've had a lot of really positive response to some of the videos that have been coming out the last week. So more of those videos are on their way, so just be a little bit patient. This Tuesday, we'll be live streaming World of Final Fantasy. We will be on the Twitch front page from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm just hoping you guys enjoy it. It's looking to be a good game. I'll be sure to upload what I can over to YouTube regarding that game. And we'll just go from there. But there's one other thing I feel like I wanted to talk about. Oh, so before we get into the questions themselves, I went to check my email for my video questions. And I guess I'm not being clear enough when I say that that email is only for video questions. So every video I say this: if you have a question, ask it on the Dream Network forums. If you have a video question, submit it to the email that's in the description below. That description is strictly for video emails. If you send me a written question there, I will not answer it, because that's not fair, because then people just assume that it's okay if I do that or if they do that. And I want to keep things structured here. So I had 3 questions that were in my inbox in my email, and I will not be answering those. You have to ask them over on the Dream Network forums. Just being 100% clear. Written questions, Dream Network forums, that's in the description below. Video questions only, go to the email. Now with that out of the way, let's get to the Dream Network forum questions, shall we? All right, first question. Hey, Hap, if you remember, your font is really bold, by the way. I've been gone a while, 8 months or so. I recognize the name because adulting. Anyways, getting back into the swing of things since seems daunting, especially for Disciples of Hand and Land. To gear up my Disciple of War, I know how to bring up my eye levels, but in so many new things, crafting and gathering, I'm just lost. Where do I start? Level 60, Miner, Fisher, Botanist, Armor, Blacksmith, Weaver. First of all, I don't craft at all. Like, I do 0 crafting. But the big thing is you can... Well, there's gear that you can craft for yourself. There's red script gear that you can buy. You'll probably end up starting with red script gear and then working your way and crafting up to the higher item level pieces. Some people also purchase the higher item level pieces when it comes to crafting, since there are a few of them that are available. So if you have spare gil, that's another option. It's a bit of a process in order to get all those, but if you had all the crafters at 50 before, you already have all the cross-class skills. It's really just a matter of gathering red scripts, or in this case, crafting for red scripts. If you're doing both Disciples of Hand and Land, you have to do both. And just working your way up slowly with that, or just straight out take some gil, go buy some upgrades, and then craft the higher level pieces from there. All right, next question. Ow, Hap. That 4.0 trailer was so delayed. Who hurt you? So please forgive my unoriginality and recycling question roulette. The Fight Through the Wind, another one. To credit your patience with me, shoot the formality, have a FanFest reveal prediction. Oh, you mean like for the JP FanFest thing? All right, well, I'm just going to take one of these because that's how the roulette works. I'm not going to pick the 4th one. I'm going to do Through the Wind. Do you think the Ixal could summon Quetzalcoatl? No, that's not the god they believe in. So that's just a flat-out no. They believe in Garuda. Now, is that to say that there could maybe be another Ixal god called Quetzalcoatl? Yeah, sure, it could happen, but I doubt they would do that. That's very much against the kind of Ixal's way of thinking. All right, question number 3. Howdy, Hap. It was great running into you at FanFest. High five. I'm not going to say your names. I'm just type. It's not working. Anyway, with the official announcement of 4.0, we also got the reveal of one of the main antagonists, Xenos Ye Galvus, the 12th Legion Legatus. And since all the previous Legatus had themes references to Final Fantasy games of their representative numbers, it's safe to say we'll probably see several references from Final Fantasy 12. My question is, what reference and themes callback? So first of all, that means that it's Star Wars. We're the rebellion attacking the Empire. There you go. It only makes sense for Final Fantasy 12 in that case. What else is there? We'll probably see some sort of power struggle between Xenos Ye Galvus and the current ruler of the Emperor, because they're both, the term Ye, Xenos Ye Galvus, means he's of the royal bloodline, which means he was probably one of the contenders for the throne itself. And so I expect that with the whole you'll probably see some sort of struggle for power there, where there's two antagonists really, and you don't know which one is really the one pulling all the strings in that case. Other than that, I'm not really sure. Just expect a lot more involvement directly with probably Sid. If we're going after the Garlands directly, Sid and airships are probably going to play a huge role in this one. And also, we of course have to deal with what's-his-face, Nero Tolskeva. We're going to have to be dealing with him as well. So there's definitely going to be a large power struggle, it feels like, within the Garland Empire. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, first-time asker, so I have 10 Wondrous Tales done and put towards Chloe's best friend title. Yeah, it's going to take a long... That's, what, 50 for Chloe's best friend? See in a year. I know it's only been the first FanFest, but people are wondering if there's a new race, Viera, and hopefully it would have an impact on the main story, unlike Al Ra. With the PS3 support being dropped, and there's also people on the side having no new race added, but instead having our current ones expanded with more faces, horns. They don't want to add a new race. If they were going to add a new race, that would have been something that they really would have wanted to get out immediately. The Al Ra started being teased in 2.2. And then they were revealed before 2.5, but we found out about what's her face, Yugiri, and we saw her face before the expansion. They would have been revealing this way in advance if they were going to do another race. I agree, though, they absolutely should expand on the current options that we have, but I really don't think we need another race. Resources for this expansion, they have way more of them, but that doesn't mean they can or should replicate the exact things they added in the last time. A new race, 3 new jobs. They should really be looking at how they can add content that has more depth and has more longevity, as opposed to add a new race, add a new job. Because you know what? You're going to have to rebalance all of the existing jobs as well. It's not like you just add 3 new jobs and it's like, oh, well, they just mesh with the old jobs. No, you're rebalancing every single job and you're revamping the battle system, however the heck that ends up playing out. It's not as simple as, oh, well, those jobs already exist, so when they add new ones, it's whatever, you know, they don't need to pay too much attention to the old ones. No, you need to pay as much attention to the old ones as if they were new jobs. So the race, I really don't think we'll see one. I think they're going to be using their resources for the content more than the aesthetics. But I do expect to see some expansion of the character creation options that we have. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, first time posting this on the forum thing, so I have a cruise chase. You know, they're gonna make Cruise Chaser a mount, dude. They're gonna do it at some point. Like, I have just, it's gonna happen. The arc form of Cruise Chaser is just, they're gonna do it. It's gonna be fucking $40 on the mock station or something. Oh. So I really like Palace of the Dead. I'm really excited for the additions 3.45. Supposedly they're going to add in other deep dungeons in addition to Palace of the Dead. Yes, they said they've already picked out a deep dungeon location for 4.0. They've confirmed that with us. My question is, what do you think they're going to do to make other... You know, I was just having this discussion live. What are they going to do to make other deep dungeons different? Are they going to use different commanders? Are there going to be different rule sets, different kinds of traps? Obviously different enemy types and a different story, but... Is it just going to be Palace of the Dead with a new skin, or are the other deep dungeons going to bring original ideas that weren't in Palace of the Dead? I'm hoping that, like, they might not even call things commanders. They might not be ether pool items. Maybe armor matters in the next deep dungeon, or maybe it's not something that's designed for levels 1 to 60, and it's designed just for 60 to 70, and that gives you more options for different types of puzzles. It's a good question. I think we should have different puzzles like we should have different objectives other than the one objective we have now. Different ways of progressing through the floors is a big one. Different buffs and debuffs from the commanders. Obviously things like strength and steel, fortune, things like those will probably stay, but things like the enemies you can become, or the buffs that you're able to obtain, or the things that actually happen, the debuffs that you get on the individual floors. It definitely needs to, it can't be the exact same thing again with a different skin. I'm just as curious as you, and those are some of my thoughts. All right, next one. Hello, Mr. Happy. First time asker on the Dream Forum, so I have a bonus of 1 gil. I'm poor. Sorry. I forgive you. Anyways, on to the question. I'm going to be switching the computer I play on. I was wondering if there's a way to transfer your hotbars gear. Yes, there is. So what you're going to want to do, and I want you to listen to me very closely. For anybody who doesn't know how to do this, you can move your hotbars from one PC to another. It's a little bit risky, so I'd make some backups if I were you. What you do is you go into your documents, you go to My Games, you go to Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, and you're going to notice there's a bunch of folders there with like a random assortment of like letters and numbers, and each one of those represents a character and it's on all of its hotbars and stuff. Like if you go into those folders, you'll see log filter dat, keybind dat, item ODR dat, item for FDR dat, hotbar.dat, and all of those are data files that your character pulls up on your computer every time you log in. So basically, the easiest thing to do is to go to the log filter dat and open it up in like Notepad and search for your character name. As soon as you know what character those data files are for, you know that you need to take those files and transfer them to the new one. Now, the thing that I believe is okay, when you install it on the new computer, I believe the folder name is exactly the same. So like mine is like, just as an example, CHR004000, etc., etc. I think it'll be the same number when I create the folder on the new computer when I install the game, and you would just move them over. But you always want to make sure you have backups. You want to make sure that you have a contingency plan in case you fuck it up, because it's very easy to fuck it up and lose all your keybinds. Just make sure you have multiple copies of all this stuff. And on that note, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, I thought FanFest was great. Me too. It was good. I actually have some footage I need to get through today eventually to edit together some clips. I have an interview with a Nero, for example. I have a few interviews and questions I took from other Dream members. Some drunk people that I have some interviews with. USMC, I'm looking at you. Yeah, it was a great one. I asked him. He's so drunk. I'm like, so what do you think of the hotel so far? Oh, dude, the wallpaper, it's like the lines on it are really good. It's just like, he's so drunk. I can't wait to show people that. Anyway, my question for this week. If you, Sly, Ethis, Mary, and Miz were the Power Rangers, what color would you each be? So I'm colorblind, so I'm going to go with the colors being red, yellow, blue, pink, black. Those are the ones I know. We're not going to do the Green Ranger because that's only 5 of us. So I can't. The thing is, it's not fair for me to pick myself because I get to pick mine. Which one would I be? Probably the Blue Ranger in all reality. But then Sly. And the thing is, so the thing about the Power Rangers, right, is that when the Power Rangers came out, what is it, in the 90s, the Power Ranger colors were pretty racist at the time. So like you had, you know, you had the jock as the Red Ranger, you had the nerd as the Blue Ranger, you had the Asian as the Yellow Ranger, you had the black guy as the Black Ranger, and then you had the prissy high school girl as the Pink Ranger. They were all very much profiling like the people they were, so it's kind of fucked up to have to pick one. Like Sly, you're my boy Blue, he could technically be blue, but if we're gonna go with like original Power Rangers, Sly would have to be the Black Ranger. I'm not a jock. I could not pass as the Red Ranger. I would have to pass as the Blue Ranger. And Miz, I don't know. She's neither of those archetypes for blue or pink, or for yellow or pink. So it's like, it's hard to pick one for her. But she's not the Red Ranger. I would probably make Mary the Red Ranger. Ethis would have to be Ethis is kind of a bitch. So maybe I'll make him the Pink Ranger, and then Miz is cool, so I'll make her the Yellow Ranger. There we go. All right. That's what I'm talking about right there. So as racist as the Power Rangers were when they came out, that's what it is. It's me, Blue Ranger, Sly, Black Ranger. I can't say that without laughing. Ethis can be the Pink Ranger. Mary's definitely the Red Ranger, and Miz is the Yellow Ranger. I'm going with that. All right, so next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. This is Final Sim, and welcome to my question in your channel. I feel like this is not the first time I've read this. Can you tell us the accuracy cap for Alexander the Creator Savage? So the Creator Savage, very interesting. The accuracy caps are pretty much equal to Midas Savage, which I believe 699 was the frontal cap for the Midas Savage. I've heard some people say it's a few points higher, so I just have like 719 on mine, and that's kind of unavoidable just because of the food that I eat and the way my gear ended up working out. I could probably get it down to like 705 or something like that, and that should be enough. But it's like in the 700 range. It's pretty much the same as the Midas Savage one, so if you Google those, it should still work for all the same. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hey, let me see. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. So I've been listening for a while, and I know you like the roulette. So you're gonna try your hand. Okay, you're gonna try your hand at a question roulette. Okay, warning: here there be monsters, specifically trolls. Shit. Questions and rewards are separated. Questions. Okay, so I get to pick a question, and then I get to pick a reward. All right, this is in depth. Oh man, 1 through 5. All right. Okay, let's just 4. All right, there you go. Why did you pick Mr. Happy as your name? Okay, so I actually know what the numbers mean. Yeah, the numbers are my birthday, 12/27, December 27th. So Mr. Happy as a name was a name I got when I was 13 or 14. I was at my friend Jason's house, and we played a lot of video games at his house, but we'd also do Spanish homework there. So we were playing this alien game where it's just you have to survive for as long as possible. It's just like wave after wave of like just and you get like massive upgrades and tons of guns and things like that. And we got to a point where I got to the high score, and I had to pick a name for my high score. And I was like, I don't know what the heck to name myself. I didn't really have a persona. Like, just Mike was really the only thing. I was like, I need something new. So he, what does he do? He says, you know what? Went through our Spanish homework, and there was a sentence about a monkey. So he called me Señor Feliz Mono, Mr. Happy Monkey. I was like, I'm just gonna take the monkey off the end, and I'll do Señor Feliz, and then I just rolled with Mr. Happy from that point on. That's it. That's the story. It is in no way indicative of me being a happy-go-lucky person, as much as that might be true. But it's actually about a Spanish monkey. Anyway, for my rewards, I'm going to go with number 1, access to a test server. You, sir, are God. Thank you. All right, next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. How are you? I'm doing swell. First time asker, long time viewer. I have a bonus of 48 hours of free time to do whatever you want. That's I don't know. I don't know what I would do with the work, I guess. This is more of a suggestion than a question, but after watching your YouTube videos from the FanFest last week, FanFest, where we all didn't eat the whole time. FanFest last week, I was wondering if you would consider 1 week, maybe instead of Mondays to Mr. Happy, doing a special Q&A stream with Mr. No. See, Mel doesn't like to do live streams or videos. She appears in them occasionally, but like that's not her thing. She doesn't like doing things like that. And I'm not the one to say, hey, we need to do this thing, or you should do this thing. I already know she's not comfortable doing the thing you're suggesting. So I'm just going to have to say, it's not going to be a plannable thing. It's not going to be, it's not something I would count on, realistically. So it's a good suggestion, but there's no way I would force her to do stuff like, to do that and do the whole Q&A thing on camera. She'd just spend the whole time talking shit about me anyway. All right, next question. Hey, Haps, nice and easy, 2 questions. Wow, it all fits in one little thing right here. First of all, what was your inspiration to start Mondays with Mr. Happy? Stay around. Mondays with Mr. Happy was a lot of people were asking me the same questions over and over again. It's like, you know what? If I answer them in a video, maybe I won't have to answer the same questions so many times. That, by the way, did not work at all, as many of you noticed from from Mondays with Mr. Happy. But it still worked out because people could ask me questions as things were happening. Something new's coming out with 14. They could ask me about my origin story. They could ask me about, what was my favorite foods. They could ask me whatever I want. It doesn't have to be Final Fantasy 14 related questions. But it is the majority of what it is, and it does lead to some repetitiveness, but it doesn't ultimately. It ultimately is good for the channel. As for State of the Realm, I used to do a podcast with Gamebreaker called XIV Nation, and yes, we didn't call it 14 Nation, we called it XIV Nation, as annoying as that might sound. And after that was done, I wanted to fill a void, but I didn't really have the confidence or the patience, I guess, to run a show, to write out show notes. I mean, I was literally like pushing so hard for partnership that if I wasn't working on Twitch, I was working on YouTube to try and get to try and increase viewership and stuff like that. So I didn't have much confidence. So Mel finally said, let's do a show. She helped out. She did a lot of the original art for it, a lot of the original graphics when we first got started. Pretty much all of the original graphics, including like the overlays, and she also helped write most of the scripts. If there was anything that needed my sort of expertise on, I would sort of pitch in, but she would give us a general topic and I would run us through it. So we also had tryouts for the co-host from some people that we met at FanFest. Sly ended up being the perfect sort of opposite to me, where he wasn't somebody who agreed with me most of the time. He's somebody who always had his own opinion, and that's why when sometimes people give Sly shit about, like, his opinion, like them not agreeing with him or him maybe not wording it properly, I go, that's why he's there. He's there because he doesn't agree with me. He doesn't have the same opinion as everyone else. That's a boring show. You always need, I guess, what you would call not a villain, but you need 2 people who disagree drastically, and even somebody who disagrees with portions of the community. If a lot of people in the community find something useful and he doesn't, it's good. It's good for the show because it gets people talking about it, it gets people discussing it, it gets people sharing their thoughts on it. He fulfills pretty much the ultimate sort of anti-me. Like, he's very anti-Mr. Happy, and that's the perfect spot. That's why we picked him for the show. Devil's Advocate's probably a good way. Yeah. He's not the antagonist, because I play the antagonist from time to time, but we can always, either of us can play the antagonist, and that's the strength. We're never both an antagonist, and we're never both the protagonist, but we can bounce off each other pretty well without agreeing. And so once we had him, State of the Realm, it was just easy flowing from there. Now, the antithesis, he's Mr. Unhappy. He's the nega happy. And secondly, did Sly ever get drunk? Did Sly get everybody drunk at FanFest? Not me, but everybody else. Holy shit. Remember when I said that was the drunk footage? Yeah. I have their permission to use that. You'll see it. On that note, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Long time no ask. Yeah, I recognize the name. So please take a one-time use of Alexander's time manipulation power. His time manipulation powers suck because his ultimate goal is to put himself in an infinite time loop where he cannot affect the outcome of fate. So I don't want that, but thank you. I'll give that to somebody else. My question is, do you think it would be possible to have Mach as a regular zone? Yeah, Ethos has wanted that. I don't think they'll ever do it. It's definitely possible. Obviously, they've already created a great deal of the assets there, but I think that and Ethos has pointed this out before too, the deliberate use of it as a zone for an instance dungeon or raid is deliberate so they can expand Eorzea faster. Get us to see these areas of Eorzea they otherwise might not be able to find a reason for us to actually go visit, and make it so it's something that we can enjoy in short bursts and not something that we get tired of, or a map that we get tired of treading through or anything like that. It lets them expand Eorzea faster so we can get off of Eorzea for the next expansion after Stormblood, hopefully. Alright, next question. Hey, Hap, sup, sucker? Yo, what's going on, man? How you doing? How goes it with you, man? It's going good. It's alright. Full stack of scripture tonestones. Thank you, man. Question 1. Any info on when we'll get the third part of Void Ark Raid Series? Patch 3.5, which is probably going to be sometime in January. Question 2. With the dropping of PS3 support, you're possible we'll get the merging of Hinterlands and Idleshire. Probably not. That's a lot of server work for not a whole lot of gain. So they'll probably leave Hinterlands and Idleshire, but what they won't have to do is they won't have to do what they did with Hinterlands and Idleshire again, most likely. Question 3. Since you've said time and time that Monk is your favorite, what was the first Oh my god playing Monk is awesome sauce moment? I guess the first time I chained all my abilities together with, like, the first time I did an opener as Monk, because when you do the Monk opener, especially at level 60, and everything just comes together. You get Demolish, you get the Perfect Bounce, you get the Snap Punch, you get the Blood for Blood, you get the second Snap Punch, you get the Internal Release, you get the Dragon Kick, you get the Potion, you get the Twin Snakes, you get the Elixir Field, you get the Snap Punch. Like, everything just flows. You literally look like a god tier martial artist with your character. And it is just an amazing thing to witness, especially when the Forbidden Chakra crits, when you get the Elixir Drive crits, when you get the Snap Punch crits, all those crits, crit the boot shine is always going to be a feel-good moment on Monk. Question number 4. Do you think we'll see Yagiri again? I think we will, but I don't see it happening prior to sort of us leaving Eorzea, potentially towards Authard. Because it's with what happened, 12, as you say, 12 Rest Your Soul. I think that they don't want to move her character forward anymore because of what happened to the voice actress. And I think that's kind of the right decision. You honor her work as it was, but you don't try to force a replacement ahead. That's something that you at least have to wait, a little bit of time. And I don't think we've waited enough time really to experience a new Yagiri. I know that in other languages, she only voiced it in one language, but that's still, I think it's paying respect to the voice actress's work. They don't want to include it in one language, not in the other. So just paying overall respect to the voice actress. Question number 5, since you won't take donuts with your Hap coffee, what would you take with it? Nothing. I like it black as knobs. Alright, next question. Hello, Happy. A question for you this week, and I thought was warranted with my high evaluation of the Tales books, which I now hate a lot. There are 3 main things I hate. 1 point second chance option feels like it's worthless. It's only worth it if there's objectives there you don't feel you can complete, or you don't want to complete them. Second, optimal way of completing books is to take the path of least resistance with no participation in a harder mode. Well, there's not really any harder modes. It's just a matter of synced versus unsynced, I suppose. And 3, with the RNG chance being so low, I don't even look at the 3-line reward as a thing to shoot for. I propose 1 second chance point to remedy the most my concerns. So here's the thing. Ultimately, you cannot do You cannot do anything to remedy the RNG without destroying the reward possibilities. This is the #1 thing that I have to drill in people's heads when it comes to Wondrous Tales. If you make the RNG more forgiving, if you make more ways to work around it, then the rewards need to be way shittier. Like, so much so to the point where you probably don't even want to bother with the Wondrous Tales books in the first place. So Any sort of recommendation to mitigate RNG, I don't agree with, because those were when somebody gets 3 lines, it feels really good. When somebody gets 2 lines, it feels really good. When you get 1 line, it's like, well, at least I got a line. There's some level of decent reward on all of the different tiers. Hell, even my just 9 sticker reward this week was 300 lore tomestones. I was like, I need an Umbrite. I'll take that. That's an Umbrite, basically. 1,000,000 MGP for the 3 lines? They can't make that any easier to get. The 250 gear, people still buy that shit, especially the 5-slotted ones. You just can't do much to... You can't add any more efforts to mitigate the RNG. It's RNG is RNG, but there's so many people doing it that people are hitting it every single week. Is the problems that I have with the Tales book valid? I think the biggest problem with the Tales book is that it doesn't get you doing old content with players who need the content. It gets you doing old content unsynced, maybe with players who didn't beat it when it was relevant. So yes, that kind of gets people through, but that's not the same as helping newer players with it. I guess it depends on how you define it, because it doesn't... I don't want to go into leveling roulette because it's in my Tales book. I want to go in with a pre-made group of 3, and this was always a thing even with the anima weapon when they said it was to help old content. But to be fair, this is just how I play the game. There are plenty of people out there who don't have the option of just grabbing 3 friends immediately. Like, obviously, I just ask my stream. I'm like, hey, who wants to do this shit? And then I throw up a party finder in Gilgamesh. Not everyone can do that. So it is positive for some people, but I don't feel it adequately gets people doing old content to help previous players, especially the 24-man stuff. There's too many objectives. Like, there's too many objectives there that people just will ignore. People will ignore the PvP objective. People will ignore the 24-man objective most of the time. People will do all of the extreme primals unsynced, except for Vanna and Bismarck, who don't need unsynced because they're a joke anyway. And then you'll get everyone just does the dungeons and they're done. That's 9. If you do all 4 of the dungeon ones at the top and the 5 extreme primals, you're done. And maybe you do coil or something, but you just ignore, like, Palace of the Dead most of the time gets ignored, especially if it's 41 to 50. Just there's too many ignorable ones. I think it's too static of what your objectives are going to be. There's always going to be 5 trial fights. There's always going to be 4 dungeons. There's always going to be 2 24-mans. There's always going to be Palace of the Dead. There's always going to be 2 coil. There's always going to be a PvP or an Aquapolis or something at the bottom. It's too static. It needs to shake it up a little bit more. Those are the only problems I have with it. All right, next question. Hey, Hap Jesus. Oh, this is a long one, so this must have a prediction. Just so you know, with the super long ones, sometimes I skip around and I look for bolded font. I see some right here, so we'll see. It's been a while since I posted, but I had an idea. So again, also ideas. If it's just a, what do you think of this idea? I generally don't do these questions too much because that's not a real question, especially when it has no basis sort of in the game itself. Do you think this will happen is a little different than what do you think of this idea, because everyone has ideas. I have ideas, you have ideas, everyone watching has ideas, and if I took time to answer all the, cross-check all the ideas, we'd still not end up with any sort of concrete anything. It's just all imagination and ideas. Like I could do that all day. Let's see. What do you think about the idea that Red Mage might be a tank? Yeah, exactly like that. So, unlikely. Obviously, in 11, people soloed shit, but nobody really used Red Mage as a tank. Red Mage isn't known for being a tank. I know you could say the same thing about Dark Knight, because Dark Knight ended up a tank. I did see Dark Knight tanks in 11. Sub-Dark Knight was also very popular for the enmity gain. Dark Knights were heavy armor wearers, at least in the early games, so it's still an acceptable thing. But Red Mage, probably not. Also, if it's just in an effort to get Samurai to be a DPS, I get it. People want Samurai to be a DPS. We still don't know if they're not going to do this whole, like, maybe one job can fit 2 roles thing and only do 2 jobs. That way Samurai can do tank or DPS. It's unlikely, but it's still possible. I won't rule it out. Just not with the whole class to 2 job thing. That's definitely not going to happen. So I still think Samurai's going to be a tank. I definitely don't think Red Mage will be a tank. And I think people would be more upset if Red Mage was a tank than if Samurai was a tank, to be honest. Next question. Hey, Mr. Smiley. Hey, Senor Feliz to you. 2 friends and I started playing this game from the 14-day free trial about a week ago. We are loving every bit of it. I'm often the one who does the research to play the game. I recently just bought the full game and didn't buy the expansion yet. We're slowly coming up to level 50, currently around 42. Should we wait to buy Heavensward until we experience all of 2.0? I recommend buying Heavensward as soon as you hit level 50, because you're going to want the experience points that you get from doing the 2.1 to 2.55 main story to help it so you don't have to do as many side quests when you get to Heavensward itself. I would recommend before doing 2.1, as soon as you beat Ultima Weapon, go buy Heavensward. That would be my recommendation. You cannot get to level 51 without the expansion. And when does late game occur? At 60. You won't do raids until 60. And You can fight Extreme Primals, some of them before 60. You probably won't, though. Most people do them unsynced at level 60, or they just do them at level 60 in general. So you're looking forward to level 60. Don't stop and try to do, like, Coil at 50 or anything like that. Get to 60. People will absolutely, if you say, hey, I've never beat it before, they're going to be like, first time bonus, second chance points, I am going to invite you, we're going to beat this for you, and yes, thank you for being a new player. That is generally how it ends up going. So just try to get to level 60 as quick as possible. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hey. I don't know why I did that. Not sure if anybody mentioned this. This is my observation. The girl in the red outfit is a good B to C cup breast size, and Ida is definitely an A cup. You know, you can't really just say that because their perception of things in the trailers is not 100% accurate. Also, you don't know. First of all, okay, if we're going to actually get into this conversation, Ida actually wears a bra right now. The character in the trailer doesn't look to be. There you go. Maybe without the bra, they hang a little lower. If that's seriously a conversation we're about to have, there you go. All right, next question. Happo. There you go. How you doing? This week I have two questions pretty different from each other. All right, one. Recently, me and my friend made our own free company. Things are going great. We're rank 8. We have a level 6 airship. We've discovered the sectors 1 to 4. Curious about the new diadem content, Eureka. So we don't know if Eureka is an exploratory mission or if it's its own thing. I think it's its own thing, completely not tied to free company airships. I'm okay with being wrong with that. That's just what I perceived from it, because it seems to be inspired by exploratory missions, not a part of exploratory missions. That being said, there will be a new exploratory mission rework in 3.5. So I would say getting diadem unlocked for now is important because it means you've discovered a lot of sectors. You probably will need to discover the next exploratory zone before you could go to it, but getting as much progress on discovering new sectors, super important. I think you should definitely make sure to spend as much time on that as possible, as much time as required, really. And 2, fishing. I don't fish at all, so I don't know if I can answer this question. How to level your old crafters and gatherers. I heard you mention in the video that you were going to make a special video all about fishing. That's probably because I never made it. Because fishing is kind of its own thing. You don't level fishing the same way you level your other gatherers. You kind of level your fisher. You can level like the other ones, but some people level it almost like their disciples of hand, because you can do leave quests where you hand in items for fishermen, unlike the other ones. So it's usually a little different, but I know that from 50 to 60, you usually level Fisher just standard. And Fisher's really fast to level 50 to 60, especially with the hand-ins and stuff. So, yeah, I never did it because you could just buy items and hand them in for the fishing leaves, and that's how you could power level that shit. Alright, next one. Hey, Haps, I see, seeing I have a few questions, have a bonus Savage coffer. Good, because I've actually gotten pretty good loot from Savage. I got my gloves, I got my earrings, I got my ring, I got the wrists, which aren't best in slot, but it's still something for now. And then I have enough books to make a purchase. I don't remember. Let's see. First to the list pertains to your recent video on skill consolidation. You mentioned the possibility of the merging abilities. Do you feel like this merge, if it happens, would be similar to, say, Blade and Soul, or one ability procs? Well, it's not so much like Blade and Soul. It's more like Guild Wars 2, where the most basic attack for your weapon, it does attack 1, attack 2, and attack 3, and it's just all on the one button. It's not so much like a proc system where it's like I hit the ability and then the second ability procs, and then you hit the second ability that procs. No. It's just automatic. It goes through them automatically in order when you press the button. More like that. Second, do you think we'll actually go through the whole jump potion and still get content mines? No, the jump potion to some degree already exists on the Chinese servers, and it skips story. So if they do a jump potion, it's absolutely skipping story, I'm telling you right there. And finally, since I'm getting into Savage rating for the first time this year, I'm curious if you know good Dragoon numbers. I don't, because I don't really check ACT. If you just check FF log, here's the thing, with FF logs, don't look at the very top. Look at, like, the people without Astros in their group. That's the best thing I could say. Take the top of the tier and just ignore it. And then just go down maybe to like anyone who's like between like 75th and 100th place. And that should be a decent idea of what you can do Dragoon wise. Take a look at their item level, make sure you understand the scenario that you're comparing yourself with. And besides, you're probably not gonna, maybe on 8-9 Savage you'll hit 22, 25, A10 maybe. But like on things like A12, that number is probably not gonna fly. I would just look at FF logs, but don't look at the top tier. Go down a little bit and look at the more reasonable people playing, not the toppest of the top who probably have Astros and shit, you know, bumping their numbers. Oh, I think this is actually the last question here on the forums. I moved through those pretty fast, I feel. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you had a great time in FanFest. I'm considering going for 2018 since it seems like a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I don't actually do most of the events at FanFest because to me it's like, FS says it best. I play the game almost every fucking day. I don't need to go to Vegas to do that. So I just talk to people the whole time. I shake hands, I talk to people, I take pictures. I have more fun meeting the people who, you know, enjoy my content than I do doing any of the event stuff. I did do the live stream. That was a lot of fun. But in terms of like the actual in-game events, no shirt, no shit. You know what I mean? Here are my questions for this week. One, it is exciting knowing about the new expansion, but is Square Enix planning on doing a battle system revamp that affects our current levels? Do you think that making or releasing a new battle system in the last patch? Yes. They should absolutely in 3.55 or 3.58 patch in whatever the new revamped battle system is for our 1 to 60 abilities. That is not the kind of thing you should wait until the expansion launches to drop on everyone at once, because it's going to be super confusing. People really want the time to acclimate to the new system. Yes, absolutely, they should do this. 2, the FanFest ticket in-games reward are for the account or for one character. I believe they're for the account, but you can't even use the outfits until after February, after the European FanFest, so you're going to be a while. You can get the Riku minion now, you get the Naming Way minion now, but for the outfits, you'll get a Dream of the Faith item, and you won't be able to trade that Dream of the Faith item in until February. So I believe it is account-wide, though. They definitely address that. I'm 99% sure it's account-wide. In fact, my chat is confirming it is indeed account-wide. So there we go. Answers your question. On that note, I'm going to answer a few questions from the Twitch chat. Reminder, they do not need to be Final Fantasy XIV related, although they can be Final Fantasy XIV related. They can be related to other games. They can be related to me. They can be related to the channel, whatever. Just want to put that reminder out there. So let's hide the forums, and Twitch chat, you're up. All right, the first question I'm going to take from the Twitch chat. Mr. Happy, what would you say has been the toughest fight for you to learn, and why? So learning and executing for me are quite different. I don't think there's a collective fight that was difficult for me to learn, but there are mechanics that were difficult for me to learn or execute individually. One of the difficult ones to learn was Gavel. Gavel back in A8 Savage was really, really annoying to learn. Another one that was really, really annoying to learn was... Actually, looking back, A8 Savage might have had the mechanics I had the hardest time learning, because it requires the greatest sight in general. That might actually just be my answer to your original question, because I'm thinking back and I remember figuring out the orbs prior to the whole stack and get hit by the cleave thing. It wasn't that bad, but it was a pain in the ass to figure out. The exact way to kill the ads in the ad phase there, the best way to progress through that was pretty fucking annoying. Brute Justice himself, not so bad, but the phase with the chakrams, like paying attention to chakrams, paying attention to the dude in the middle, paying attention to the other guys who were doing mechanics. I'd say actually probably Brute Justice in general has been the one that had the most individual mechanics. Collectively, the fight as an individual person is not so bad, but then doing all those mechanics, paying attention to them, and then also doing exactly what it is that's required of your job. I'd say 8 Savage, probably my answer to that question. I don't think it's the hardest fight I've done in the game, but the hardest mechanics to figure out, the biggest puzzle to jump through was probably 8 Savage. Alright, next question. Mr. Happy, if streaming wasn't something you did as a job, what would your main job be? I'd probably have worked in IT for a few more years. I would have been looking for an IT job. I did internal tech support, meaning if people in the company had tech issues, I was the one to fix it. I didn't talk to customers or anything like that. I occasionally had to, but for the most part, I just worked within the company. I made sure everything was up to speed. I set up the SharePoint. God, having to learn SharePoint was awful. But I was in charge of the SharePoint. I was in charge of learning how to program and manage the SharePoint and give everyone permissions and help people with any issues they had with that. I had to fix any computers in the local office. I was in charge of making sure the internet worked perfectly fine. I was in charge of handling any sort of database additions or changes we needed to make. I had a handful of responsibilities. A lot of it, honestly, if you're in IT, you're probably hearing this going like, that's pretty easy shit. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I'd probably have done that for a while, and then I would have eventually tried to move into gaming, but that was always my thing with video. Ever since I was 5, I told everyone I was going to make video games when I got older. 5 years old. And that is the same thing I said up until about I was 21, 22. And then I looked at like video gaming in college, like a video game major in college. Technically, I was an IT major with a video game minor, but my focus was video games. And I found that college courses in that were just so inadequate. I was teaching myself everything. I wasn't actually learning anything from my professors, and they would basically tell me to go learn something and then bring them a project. And I'm like, that's kind of shit, because I could do that without paying all this money for fucking college that I'm still paying off now. And I would highly recommend, if you're going to go into video games, don't do an IT major. Do a computer science major with a minor in video games. You want to learn video game etiquette. You want to learn video game logistics. You don't need to sit there and make shitty flash or like mini games that you or one other person made, unless they're like end up being really original because you're in a college where all the students actually really give a shit about it. I'd say go with that if you seriously want to go to college for video games. You want to learn as many programming languages as possible, and that's going to be the big thing, is teaching yourself to keep up with those languages or keep up with the changes for the software and the hardware that's used to make video games. But what would I be doing? I don't know. I probably would have moved into journalism to some degree, talking about video games, writing articles about video games. Working for IGN was a high probability for me, between the people I knew and the means through which I had interest in the game. That is the direction I was likely moving. All right, next question. Mr. Happy1227, you recently got a cat. How's your experience as a pet owner, and would you recommend pet ownership to others? So that depends on what kind of pet you're planning to buy, where you live, what's allowed. Because, like, fish, Mel takes care of the fish. It's her fish. She takes care of it. And honestly, I watch her take care of that fish. That fish is a pain in the ass to keep alive. Between all of different filtration systems, needing to keep the water exactly right, needing to change the water. When the fish gets sick, it gets really fucking annoying. Honestly, taking care of a fish, it's such a fragile pet. That's probably the toughest one to do. I'd probably move towards something like a cat or a dog. They can be independent, and you just need to make sure that you're monitoring their health and giving them a proper diet, giving them proper attention when they need it, and making sure they get extra. You're basically like keeping a small child healthy, pretty much. So owning a cat has been fairly easy. The hardest thing to get used to is that cats as a species just go wherever the fuck they want. So if they figure out how to get into something, or they want to go someplace and you're not looking at them all the time, they will absolutely do it. They'll scratch if they want to. They'll scratch something. And that changes cat to cat. But the biggest thing is just prepare to spend a lot of money, and be prepared to need to adjust your life. You can't just run the same. You can't just get a pet, go home, and have the same life. You can't, because you have another life you're responsible for now. You have your possessions that you need to make sure that the animal respects it, and that you still respect the animal at the same time. You don't want to punish the animal because it thought that the towels that were hanging down was just something that they could use as a scratching post, because they don't know any better. You get a scratching post, yeah, you have it. You make sure you have plenty of things to entertain them. You make sure that you're watching their diet carefully, and make sure you don't neglect their health. Like, if you think your pet is sick, take them to the vet. It's a bit expensive, but that's why you need insurance also. Again, you're going to be paying for another kind of insurance. All these things just kind of add up together, and you really got to remind yourself that that is not just an animal. You have accepted that pet into your family. And it is family at that point. If you don't like the pet, there's always options for that. But when you make that decision, hopefully you make the decision right the first time. You end up with a cool pet, one that you can that you have some level of affection with, and that you absolutely will take care of and respect. All right, Mr. Happy A from Jersey. How did you and Mel meet? So we met online, but not on like a dating site or anything. A bunch of my friends were gonna play. They were people who played RO1, Ragnarok Online. And so they were going to play Ragnarok Online 2 when it came out. The second version of it that came out, because the first one like didn't survive very long. So the second version of Ragnarok Online 2 comes out, and I was like, you know what? Final Fantasy 11 had already been in the decline for me. I was playing WoW at the time, I think. Or I was playing Diablo 3 or something. I don't even remember. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. My friends are all playing. I'll hop on Ragnarok Online 2. It looks like a shit game, but whatever. I could at least mess around with them for a little bit. And so they made a guild called Havoc, and Mel joined the guild, and I got to meet her online. We started talking, and one thing led to another. We went through our the normal long distance relationship problems that you have with making sure to keep contact. And on top of that, I'm a very difficult person. Once I started doing this as a career, like, I dedicate 80% of my time to my career, and it's rough, and it was way rougher on the long distance relationship, but we had our lumps. We got through our ups and downs. And eventually we ended up at a spot where we were ready to be together. And that's when I moved out to Los Angeles, January 5th. I never forget that day. And then on March 23rd, technically March 31st was when our LA lease ran out. And but March 23rd was when we made the official move to San Diego, our first our first place that we owned together, because we needed to get out of that small Los Angeles apartment and move into a place that had more space, like a dedicated office, like you're seeing in here. So that's the story. I mean, it's obviously I could go more in depth than that, but I think you get the point with that answer to the question. All right, next question. Mr. Happy, what kind of mechanic setup would be needed to bridge the gap between Savage and regular raid modes if and when Square Enix does it? I think they have an idea of what to do. Savage, bring it down to the difficulty the Creator Savage is at now. I think the Creator Savage is the perfect difficulty for people who want to beat the raids really fast and do an actual world first race that doesn't drag on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But then your standard player who's maybe not super experienced in the raid scene can get into it, and it's an extra. You want your middle core players to be able to experience almost every piece of content in your game that they are interested in. They may have trouble with some of the really far endgame fights, but you want them to feel like they have the ability to access it because it keeps them playing the game longer. Your casual player base, they'll be fine with the story. They'll be fine with the story modes. They'll be happy to log in and talk to friends and socialize and just play the game and have fun. But your middle core and your hardcore players are always going to be the hardest to please. They're the ones who are always going to want more, more, and more. They're going to be the most vocal ones that you'll run into. And then you'll have the middle core people who are vocal, but you can please them a lot easier. And I think that the way we have it now, this is the difficulty of Savage that should bridge the people from being a normal player to being a middle core player, somebody who raids. If they want to do something hardcore, they already suggested that they do a Savage, like a legit like A4, A8 Savage style Savage. They do those in the odd-numbered patches like they did with the second Coil Savage. I think that's the right approach, and I'm curious to see if that's the approach they end up going for. Next question, Mr. Happy, what are your expectations for World of Final Fantasy? I think if people can just get over the whole chibi thing, which never bothered me in the first place, I think it's going to be one of the best Final Fantasy games we've had in years. First of all, Pokemon has already proven that the collection aspect of an RPG is king. Yes, leveling party members is great, but if you give them a huge selection of potential party members, let them customize the way they go through it with that many different options, on top of the whole evolution and de-evolution stages, and the ability to trade, and the ability to battle friends, it's literally Pokemon, the Final Fantasy version on a PS4 and a Vita. And I think that the combat is very intuitive. It's very easy to understand. It's a little slow, but they added a fast forward button, thankfully, for that. And I think that it's gonna be an instant Final Fantasy classic. Yes, it is a giant fan service game. Yes, it is chibi graphics, but I think that it is an instant game that will immediately ring true amongst Final Fantasy fans. All right, I'm going to take two more questions. This one and one more question after it. So next question, Mr. Happy, what kind of software do you use to make videos? Also, what kind of camera? So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm a creature of habit and that I would actually make some recommendations for different programs to use. I use OBS to record my gameplay footage, and my camera right now is being recorded through OBS. I would not recommend doing that. Even if you go through all the settings in OBS to make it look better, there are so many better Mrhappy Action used to be a really good one that I use. I don't know why I stopped. I think I had a lot of hiccuping issues with it when it came to the quality of the video. The Elgato, actually, so one big one is the Elgato built-in software, the Elgato HD. I have an Elgato HD60 capture card, and it has a built-in streaming software. Honestly, that's gotten a whole lot better. I think it's kind of getting ignored too much. It now has a function where what you can do when you stream from the Elgato software is you can make it so that all of your overlays, your camera, any of your Twitch alerts, they are on different scenes. And when you pull the video footage off of the Elgato, you can erase those scenes and just get the gameplay. As somebody who streams, and you've seen I have to like do a completely different scene in order to record for YouTube when I'm live streaming on Twitch. Honestly, I see that as a huge asset that stands out over everything. If there's another program that has it, I would love to know, because that is honestly the single most impressive thing that I have seen on a streaming software. That is something that literally I, as a Twitch broadcaster and YouTuber, I do both, I need that. That is insanely useful. So I don't use it, but I make it as a recommendation. I don't recommend YouTube. I'm sorry, I don't recommend OBS for recording. It's what I do, but it's because I've done it for so long. As for editing, I have Photoshop for making like thumbnails and graphics and things like that. I'm not super skilled at it, but I can do it. I also use Sony Vegas 13 as my video editing and rendering software, and then there's not really much else. Sometimes I have to use Audacity to get like an audio clipper. Sometimes I have to use Handbrake to convert files, but that's about it. Those are just a few different things that I use in terms of making videos and editing audio and things like that. I got two real quick ones. I know I said only one more, but one of them is just, what are your plans for Halloween? I don't really have any. I have personal reasons that I don't really like to talk about, why Halloween's not exactly my favorite holiday. Something that happened when I was young. It's not about me, it's about a friend of mine, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. It's just a reason why I don't really dress up for Halloween. I don't really embrace Halloween a whole lot. The other question I want to do is this one here. Mr. Happy, are you happy? Now that sounds like a joke question, but let's elaborate. Like, inside your life, you have the goals for the 2016 year, but other than that, what do you do? What do you as a person define as your own personal happiness? So I'm a bit of a workaholic. When I am productive, I am happy, which is why I spend 7 hours a day on a live stream. It's why I'll spend another 7 hours working on videos. And it's exhausting at times, but I can't take more than a day or a night's break. Because even if I'm like, oh, I really needed that extra sleep, or I really needed to just have a drink and just relax, I always get this like anxiety, like, oh man, I need to be working. I should be doing this, I should be doing that. My own... When I never feel like I've earned anything. I don't even, no matter how much somebody subs to me, no matter how much someone cheers to me, no matter how much someone tells me I deserve it, I don't like to ever believe I've earned anything. And I earn my happiness by other people showing me, I guess, appreciation in my work. Like when somebody says, I value your work. I think your work is worth a cheer, 10 cheers, a sub on YouTube, a sub on Twitch, a follow. That's where I get my happiness, is in my work, because I don't ever believe I believe that as soon as I think I've earned something, I won't strive for it as much. And so it's always humbling because I think that way. And so it always brings me a lot of happiness when things like that, somebody just grinded you with 29-month subs, since I'm on Twitch right now at the same time. You said you don't deserve this sub. You deserve all the subs. So there's sub hype going on. I know that you guys don't hear it over on the YouTube side that's there. And then on top of that, when I'm not in work mode, having somebody in my life who I care about, having somebody who cares about me in their life, like, I don't always get to give Mel the right amount of attention. And it's always a big thing, because it always seems like all I care about is work. And it's because I guess I've always kind of been lost in what I was going to do, and what I like, where I was going to go in life. Like, I was always kind of lost. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't think I was going to ever have those things. And when I met Mel, things were different. I learned a lot about myself, because I learned that what I thought I valued was not what I actually valued. I guess I had kind of been taught to value different things than I actually did. And through her, I was able to grow as a person, and I learned what it was like to really care for someone, to show how you care about somebody. And I'm still not the greatest at it, but it's been a long journey on that front. It's been a very, very long journey, and she changed me only for the better. In no way has she changed me for the worse. Sometimes I'll give her trouble because, you know, I might think back to the way things used to be, and I might think, man, things were so much easier back then. But just because they were easier doesn't mean they were better. And it's been a long journey. That's just what I say. That's when I don't know what to say. I just say it's like, it's been a long journey. And then Aloha, of course. Aloha had me fucking like a heart attack earlier when we thought he was throwing up. We found out it was diarrhea, but it just looked like vomit. Thank God, because I was worried he was gonna die. And I want to keep Aloha healthy and safe because it makes her happy. And that's been a big thing, because if you had asked me that, even if you look back like 2-3 years ago, like it may not have been like a way that I felt like, oh, I want this cat to be like perfectly healthy and safe because it means someone else will be happy. I thought I was not selfish growing up. I was very selfish when I was younger, even just as soon as 3-4 years ago. And it's been a lot of personal growth, and I've her to thank for that. I have my stream to thank for that. I have my YouTube to thank for that. I have pretty much everything in my life to thank for what I consider as my current happiness. And not many people can say that, you know? Not many people can say their work makes them happy. Not many people can confidently say that the person they're with, like, isn't, like, how do I say? It's hard to some, because you know how like everyone jokes around about how relationships are like everybody hates their significant other in relationships. As much as you love them, you hate them. I think that's true, but it's all about knowing how much you love them overwrites how much they can get on your nerves sometimes. I get on her nerves on a daily basis, and she puts up with me every day. She gets on my nerves occasionally, and you know what? We get past it, and that's really a big thing. That's a growing thing, because I used to not be able to do that very well. So I could ramble on about this for ages, but where does my personal happiness come from? Everything around me. Because no matter how many times I may get frustrated at the occasional viewer who's a shit talker or a troll, get aggravated at like the backseat gaming, or I get aggravated I couldn't get work done, or maybe I get aggravated, maybe her and I get into a fight, maybe the cat is going someplace the cat doesn't belong, maybe I'm thinking about money and it's stressing me out. It doesn't matter. All those things, those don't define my personality. Those are problems that will pass. Those are problems you can get through. And I get my happiness in knowing what's waiting for me when I get through them. That is my answer overall. So that was a bit of an emotional one. So on that note, that is going to be my wrap up for this Mondays with Mr. Happy. It's Mr. Happy. So guys, videos at the bottom right here. You know how we do every time. I will have Count Up Cast posted. By the way, tomorrow we have Count Up Cast on Final Fantasy 11, by the way, and I will be posting highlight clips of Final Fantasy 11. We played it for 6.5 hours, me, Slack, and Morag, as part of a thing that they convinced me to do totally. So those of you on YouTube, I'm going to wrap up this YouTube video, and then on Twitch, I'm going to hang out for a few more minutes before we wrap that up, because I got to go watch the cat. So Mel can get another litter box while he has the diarrhea. We want to get a second litter box so he doesn't have to go as far if he's feeling like he can't make it back to his litter box with his diarrhea. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching over on YouTube. I will see you next week. Be sure to ask your questions in the description of the video. Go to the Dream Network forums for regular questions. Video questions, go to the email. Remember that. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.